Let's talk about what can get rolled into a home loan. And we're going to talk specifically for purchases. Um, it's, a, it's about the same for refinances, to be honest, but let's talk about purchases. So when you buy a home, the seller, to roll something in, I'm using air quotes here for in case you're listening and not seeing me do it, air quotes, to roll something in on a purchase means that it typically needs to be done via a seller concession. So what does that mean? Hey, Mr. Seller, I like your house for 500 grand. Tell you what, if you don't mind covering 5 grand of my closing costs and my prepaids, I'll buy the house from you for 505. So the seller in theory doesn't care because they're still netting the same 500. You as a buyer, you love it because now 5 grand is covering stuff at closing. So there are limits, depends on the program type, depends how much you put down for down payment. There are limits to how much a seller can give. So they can't be like, oh, here's 80 grand and it pays for all this other stuff. So what the seller concessions are allowed to pay for are going to be things like closing costs and prepaids and HOA dues. What they're not allowed to pay for is your down payment. So the seller's not allowed to make that down payment for you. Now the question comes, a good question I have here about, hey, can I roll in other stuff like home warranty, air conditioned stuff, things of that nature. So in a similar fashion, some of that, it gets a little gray, but here's a home warranty. Yes, because that's part of quote unquote closing cost. So a home warranty, the seller concessions where the seller says, hey, I'm paying you this many dollars at closing, that can go to cover home warranty. Let's say there was some HVAC work done during the process, during the home inspection and something got fixed. Can the seller pay for that? Yeah, if it needs to be fixed, it's just part of negotiating, but that wouldn't necessarily have to be done through seller concessions. There would just be the way we prefer is the HVAC invoice. Well, truthfully, the seller just pays the HVAC person in advance for fixing it or maintenance, whatever they did. Or if they have to, pay it at closing, pay the invoice at closing from the seller's side. But that's really not paying anything on behalf of the borrower. That's just fixing stuff that's up front. So you're not really rolling anything in. But another question I had is what about furniture or artwork? I had one this weekend. Can we roll in the artwork, some really nice artwork apparently, into the purchase price of the home? No. What about a second home, like a lake property? Can we roll in the boat, the jet ski? No. We are financing real estate. Now, is there a workaround? Maybe. So we are financing real estate. We loan on real estate, on houses. We do not lend on art. We do not lend on boats. We do not lend on jet skis. So it would make sense to me that if somebody finds a lake house that does include a boat, a jet ski, and some nice art, that I might be willing to pay more for the house. And so instead of 500,000, maybe I pay 550,000 for the house because it does have all these things that come with it, right? So it's not part of the house, but I might be willing to pay more for the actual house. The catch on that is that house better appraise for the 550 in my example. If every other house in the neighborhood is sold for 500 and there aren't any comps, you're not going to get an appraisal for 550 to support that value. So therein lies the problem. But again, we lend on the house, not all those other things. So that type of stuff cannot be rolled into the mortgage. If you're willing to pay more for a house, I've seen model homes with builders. Maybe it's the last home in the area that's getting sold. Typically, they might say, hey, you get all the furniture, it comes with it. But the way that typically works is those model homes are really good. They have a lot of upgrades. They spend a lot of money making it look nice. So oftentimes there's not that appraised value issue, but that's kind of the unspoken, like, hey, you get the furniture that comes with it, so there's extra value there, but the house does in fact appraise. So that's the biggest thing. House does have to appraise. To roll it in on a purchase, the seller has to pay for it. And there's things they can and can't pay for. If it's not permanently fixed to the house, that's what we lend on. We lend on the house, not other stuff. So if you do have questions, because I know there's a whole world of other things out there for refinances, you already own it. So there's a lot of, that takes away a lot of those questions, but certainly if you have questions about your buy or your sell or your purchase, your refinance, whatever it is, reach out to the mortgage market team. We are here to help. And when you think mortgage, think Mark.